In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Sunday morning Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Thanks again for joining in. Really appreciate it on a beautiful Sunday here in New York. Finally, it's an actual spring day. It'll be about 60, sunny, everything's blooming, life is good. Life is not going to be good for Iran, however, where Vice President Vance was leading negotiations with whatever's left of the Iranian regime in Pakistan, and he came away from this. This will be cut 19, Elias. Well, given the good news and the bad news, but mostly the bad news is going to be for Iran, and we'll get to President Trump's next move as a result of this statement. Cut number 19, go.
We have been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms.
My goodness, this is, again, whatever's left of the regime is just dumb. There's no other way to put it. You have 0 cards to play. Are you going to block the Strait of Hormuz? Because that's basically it. That's what desperate regimes on their way out do, right? Last resort kind of stuff. So obviously can't hit us with anything militarily, it seems, at this point. So as a result, President Trump announced this morning a U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Trump made the announcement in a post on his Truth Social account, blaming the failure to reach a deal with Iran during talks in Pakistan this weekend. Quoting the president, "So, there you have it. The meeting went well. Most points were agreed to, but the only point that really mattered, nuclear, was not. Effective immediately. The United States Navy, the finest in the world, will begin the process of blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz." Trump continues, "At some point, we will reach an all," and this is all caps, by the way, "all being allowed to go in, all being allowed to go out basis, but Iran has not allowed that to happen by merely saying there may be a mine out there somewhere that nobody knows about but them. This is world extortion," again, all caps, "and leaders of countries, especially the United States of America, will never be extorted. I've instructed our Navy to seek and interdict every vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. No one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. We will also begin destroying the mines the Iranians laid in the straits. Any Iranian who fires at us or at peaceful vessels will be blown to hell." Again, all caps. Iran knows better than anyone how to end this situation, which has already devastated their country. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their anti-aircraft and radar are useless. Khomeini and most of their leaders are dead, all because of nuclear ambition. The blockade will begin shortly. All right. Well, that's the next step here. And again, this is all that the Iranians have left to play. And all they had to do, according to the president, is agree to our nuclear conditions, which is, all right, give up the nuclear dust, no more uranium enrichment. You'll never have nukes. Never. And they won't agree to that. Meanwhile, let's get to Eric Swalwell, shall we? Because, I mean, this is just so perfect. There is not a bigger douchebag in all of Congress, and we're including Adam Schiff in this conversation, than Eric Swalwell. The guy is, let's put it this way, without social media, he would not exist as a lawmaker, because that's all he does all day. He posts these ridiculous, snarky, gotcha kind of memes and videos, like eating a taco on these videos in his office. Hey, it's Taco Tuesday. Trump always chickens out. Get it? And it's just like enough already. But here's the thing. He is a creation of Nancy Pelosi, because this is 2015, I believe. That's when the whole Fang Fang thing began. Fang Fang being a Chinese spy that Swalwell had slept with. And again, any girl approaches you. Two rules that I have. First one, never date a girl or have relations with a girl named after a city. All right. So if your name's Paris or Sydney or Dallas, nope, I ran in the other direction. You just know. Red flag. But the really communist red flag is a Chinese woman named Fang Fang that suddenly is very interested in you. And as a result, Swalwell, who should have just, not sat on any committees whatsoever, ends up being on all these high-ranking, highly sensitive committees in Congress because Pelosi wanted him on there and to serve basically as her attack dog. And then during the Russia collusion thing, he's the one who led that whole process, which, when you look back on it, obviously utterly ridiculous. Even the Mueller report proves that. But then also he used to go off on Brett Kavanaugh and, we have to believe all women. You could find 100 tweets from this clown saying we have to believe all women when it came to Kavanaugh. You remember Kavanaugh? He was accused of basically rape of a girl he went to high school with at the time in high school, like 35 years later kind of thing. She suddenly, Christine Blasey Ford, right, suddenly decided to come about because no one could corroborate her story, even her own friends that were with her at the time. But nevertheless, Kavanaugh nearly didn't make it to the Supreme Court because of people like Kamala Harris and Eric Swalwell leading that charge. And now Swalwell has been credibly accused by several women, including one that actually went on CNN and talked about exactly what Swalwell had done to her while she was intoxicated. And we're going to play the full clip here. But this is pretty detailed and pretty disturbing. Cut number 1, go.
Decided to ask him to meet me for a drink. And I did this because I was so far removed from what had happened in 2019. I felt safe because I was established. I had a partner. I felt more secure that I could have a strictly professional relationship with this person. After that bar closed, we went to another. I went to the bathroom and I don't remember anything after that.
You don't remember anything?
I remember the next day. I can see flashes of that evening of him on top of me pushing him off, him grabbing me. It was a lot more aggressive. It was aggressive.
I mean, he's cooked. And not just in his race for governor in California, right? Because everybody now, Democrats, how could they not, have called for him to drop out of the race. But Brooklyn's Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic leader, this guy will not go further in saying that Swalwell, well, obviously doesn't just have to drop out of the gubernatorial campaign that he has for California governor, but also he's got to resign. A guy like this can't exist in Congress when it's several women that have come forward, all worked for Swalwell. It's bad. And even here, you got to hear this. This is Swalwell's lawyer on CNN talking about why Swalwell isn't on the air, because he used to run to every microphone possible. And CNN and MS now put him on almost more than anybody, not named Adam Schiff. But anyway, here is his lawyer talking about why Swalwell can't answer questions right now about these allegations that he says are false. This is cut number 5. Go.
Is he saying that he cheated on his wife but didn't do anything illegal?
I'm not going to get into the details of that. Our investigation is ongoing. A lot of it is privileged. But I can tell you, based on the video that you just played, the congressman takes accountability for potential lapses in judgment, but again, categorically denies any wrongdoing.
So your investigation is ongoing. Why isn't he here, though, to answer those questions? You didn't answer that question. Why isn't he putting himself out there to answer the questions directly?
Yeah.
Well, he has a campaign to run. He's busy. He's taking these allegations seriously.
Oh, that's great. He has a campaign to run. His entire campaign basically looks suspended. Fundraising page is down. Campaign page is down. Obviously not doing any events. He's out there campaigning. We have way too many greasy lawyers in this country. That is certainly for sure. But going back, again, just to remind people of Swalwell, the condescension, the piousness, and now obviously the hypocrisy in all caps. Here is how Swalwell talked about Brett Kavanaugh back during his confirmation hearings in the first Trump term. This is cut number 2. Go.
I saw continued demeaning of victims of sexual assault, people who deserve to be heard, who deserve for their allegations to be investigated. For Brett Kavanaugh's sake, if he is innocent, I hope tomorrow he opens his statement and says, you know what? Bring in all the victims, allow them to be heard, allow them to be questioned. That will clear his name if he's indeed innocent. And if he's not, for the sake of the credibility of the court, I hope that the senators would vote against him.
And we look back on that and just how ridiculous that was. Those allegations against Kavanaugh from decades ago, much like E. Jean Carroll and Donald Trump, where this gal comes forward more than 30 years later and says that Trump had groped her in Bergdorf dressing room. And then she couldn't even remember what year it may have happened. No witnesses, no police report, nothing. And somehow she won $80 million because this was a civil suit in a New York court that, of course, was going to believe her. Despite the fact, again, if you can't remember the year, that's a big, big problem. If you didn't report it at the time, it's a big, big problem. And then she went on MSNBC and Rachel Maddow and bragged about how she was going to spend the money, because that's how rape victims always respond if they win cases like this. Talking about, oh, Rachel, we're going to go to Paris together. I'm going to buy you a house. Yeah, I'm sure she was telling the truth. In case anybody's trying to equate anything here. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers Sunday Morning Foundation show. Back with so much more on this beautiful Sunday in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So once again, our breaking news is that President Trump will now evoke or create a blockade on any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. will run that. We're also going to clear any mines that may be in that strait and open that back up again. Quoting the president, other countries will be involved with this blockade. Iran will not be allowed to profit off this illegal act of extortion, all caps. They want money, and more importantly, they want nuclear. Additionally, and at an appropriate moment, we are fully, all caps, locked and loaded, and our military will finish up the little that is left of Iran. So we tried. We gave you an off-ramp, Iranian regime, what's left of it. And you just couldn't take it. Just couldn't agree not to go nuclear anymore and give up any nuclear dust that you had. Nope. And now the full might of the U.S. military is going to make sure that there may be no one left to negotiate with as far as leadership. And once that strait's open, then Iran has zero cards to play. And obviously, this will be very, very good for our economy, very, very good for the markets, which rebounded nicely last week. Meanwhile, I guess the big news this week on the Democratic side, outside of Eric Swalwell no longer being in that race, and just to finish that point on Swalwell, there is scuttlebutt that this whole story broke on all these allegations of sexual harassment of former employees by Swalwell, alleged, we have to say, credible, we could also say, that this is something that Democrats actually kicked off. Because the way it works in California is they have a jungle primary. It is a ridiculous thing that says that in a primary, the top two finishers move on to the primary regardless of party. So It's supposed to rig it where a Democrat runs against a Democrat and you're guaranteed a Democrat. The problem is the candidates are so bad on the Democratic side that in frigging California, all right, which is as reliably blue as Illinois and New York, Hawaii, Massachusetts, the top two candidates right now regarding polling is Sheriff Chad Blanco, and at the top is my former colleague and friend Steve Hilton. All right, so it could be Republican versus Republican. So all the Democratic voters in that state won't have a choice because of this ridiculous jungle primary, which I think should be like basically illegal. It's so ridiculous. It's so rigged. But they really outthought themselves on this one. So now the problem for Democrats was that Swalwell and the horrible Katie Porter and then Tom Steyer, who's just a very weird guy. I still got to know how that guy is a billionaire. They were splitting up the vote on the Democratic side. And now with one less candidate in there in Swalwell, then maybe that gives the Democrat a better chance to finish second to Hilton. But again, when your choices, and even in California, are Tom Steyer and Katie Porter, I still think Blanco and Hilton come out on top, but this makes it harder for them to do that. So people are thinking that maybe this didn't come from the Republican side. This probably came from the Democrat side. All these allegations coming about now with the primary just right around the corner. Meanwhile, as I was about to say, the biggest news coming out of the Democratic Party this week is perhaps Kamala Harris will run for president in 2028, which is the best news any Republican, especially if your name is J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, can possibly have. Because this is a woman whose campaign nearly spent $2 billion in 107 days and couldn't win one swing state. Zero return on investment. And it appears she's regressing. I think she's actually getting worse at this. Which you think, like, all right, you get enough at bats, maybe you get a little better. Kind of like when Michael Jordan went to play baseball. You know, not very good at first, but the more at bats he got, if he stayed in baseball in the minor leagues another year or two, he probably would have made the pros. That's what many scouts think anyway. The point is that here is Kamala trying to do an imitation of President Trump, and you can't convince me she isn't drunk here. I mean, there is no other explanation for this, because 60-something-year-old people that were once vice president of the United States and want to be president have run twice. Like, do this. It's the worst imitation ever. I don't even know what she's talking about. And there's got to be some liquid courage involved here. That's all I'm going to say. Cut number 8, go.
You take Eastern Europe, and I'll take the Western Hemisphere. And then you over there, you get Asia.
What is that?
And we'll just divide it up.
Even the crowd, this is at Al Sharpton's event this week, like there were a couple of laughs, but it was almost nervous laughter, like probably people thinking, what she do? Is that supposed to be an invitation to Trump? It's not normal. And the thing is, right now, as polling stands, and I know it's early, she would be the nominee. She is head and shoulders above everybody else, if you could believe that. Gavin Newsom must be shaking his head. I'm losing to this person? As of now, anyway. So hopefully Kamala jumps in, and that will guarantee a Republican in the White House in 2028 if she is the nominee. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers Sunday Morning Foundation Show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Al Sharpton is absolutely just the best unintentional comedy out there. And yet, all these potential candidates for president came to New York to kiss his ring at this National Action Network event that he has. And here he is claiming that Kamala Harris got more votes than anyone in history, which defies all logic and math. This is cut number 9. Go.
She got more votes than Barack Obama. She got more votes than anyone in American history.
No.
Whatever she decides to do, she's made her point in history. Now we need her to help us, whatever she decides, to change history around. I bring you the former Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala Harris.
Oh. Okay. We get it. Good Lord. If Kamala got more votes than anyone in history, Rev, then why isn't she president? Even Joe Biden, if you want to believe this, got more votes than she did. Obviously, Donald Trump got more votes than she did because he won the popular vote. And as I mentioned before, every swing state. And this is something that it's a speech. It's not like he's on TV and he's trying to think fast on his feet. We all make a mistake here and there on cable news. Not me, of course, but others, certainly. And he appeared to be, I guess, reading from somewhere. Who put that in? Well, maybe he was going off the cuff, but how do you make that claim? You know? Got more votes than anyone in history. Unbelievable. Of course, he wants Kamala to run because they're really tight. So, as a friend, Al Sharpton wants Kamala Harris to be the 48th president. Meanwhile, this is funny. Hunter Biden played this earlier this week, but for those who haven't heard it, appears to be back on the sauce because who else would put themselves in front of a camera and then challenge two sons of the sitting president to a steel cage match? Yep, this is where we are at this point. We are well past ludicrous speed. This is cut number 10. Go.
I think he's trying to organize a cage match, me versus Eric and Don Jr. I told him I'd do it, 100% in, if he can pull it off. And if he can't, I'm still coming.
Huh? So that's Hunter Biden saying that he thinks that Trump wants to arrange a steel cage match where Hunter alone takes on Don Jr. and Eric Trump. Trust me, having met both, Don just gives me the feeling that he probably fights dirty, and I say that as a compliment. And Eric is, Barron's tall, but Eric is quite tall also. Would definitely have a reach advantage both in kicking and in punching. So yeah, I give the edge to Eric and or Don Jr. over Hunter Biden, who clearly body is run down over various substances going through it over the years. But this is a Biden thing, right? To challenge people to things that they'll probably lose in. Remember the one and only debate between Trump and Biden in 2024 at Georgia Tech? I was there. This is where Biden, you want to insult Trump. You could call him a fascist. You could call him Hitler. You could call him an authoritarian. And that really he just rubs it right off, right? It's like, yeah, whatever. I've been called worse. You go after Trump in terms of golf prowess, and that is his red line as far as insults are concerned. Here's our flashback edition of the show. This is Joe Biden in cut number 2, talking about how he could beat Trump at golf. Really? Go.
I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
A 6?
And
no.
By the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Wait.
But I have, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Oh. In the same sentence, Biden, again, that ended his, aspirations to be president for another 4 years, that debate, obviously. But he went from having a 6 handicap to an 8 handicap within basically the same sentence. He didn't have either. All right. No shot that Biden can even reach a fairway. And I've never actually seen him play golf. And he's saying that he could beat Trump at golf and he could carry his own bag. Will you do it? So this is a Biden thing. They just challenge people to things just randomly out of nowhere. And that comes from being pathological narcissists. Anyway, speaking of pathological, Zoran Mamdani, or as Al Sharpton calls him, Ma'am Dammy. Yeah, I think it was Ma'am Danny. If you could find that, Elias, I'd love to play that again. But in the meantime, here he is talking about how his mom, who was like a movie director, producer, they had all the white actors play waiters because of equity or something. This is cut number 16. Go.
Because my mother made a film called Mississippi Masala and met my father in the process of it. And at the time, she was looking for funding for that film, and she told the story. It was about a love story between an African-American man and an Indian Ugandan woman. And she went up to a financier, and he said, where where are the white actors in this story? And she said, don't worry, they'll be the waiters. And she taught me that if we don't tell our own stories, no one else will. And too often when it comes to stories about people of color, by people of color, we don't have that funding.
Oh, yeah, we're going to punish all the white actors by having them play waiters. Again, this guy's like openly racist. We saw this week, he has this racial equity plan talking about how he's going to take more from white taxpayers who are successful to give to black and brown taxpayers who aren't as successful. That's racism. It's really that simple. And by the way, we're the Asians in this equation, or Indians for that matter. Why does only one race benefit from this racial equity plan? It's just insulting. It's insulting to black and brown voters, that community, that you would do something like this based on race. Again, you voted for this, people, and the honeymoon with this media continues to go on. It's going to end soon. It better, because you're not getting free busing. He promised that. And where are all those grocery stores that are supposed to open? I don't even hear about one project, even one shovel in the ground around that, because it ain't happening. Universal child care, 10, 12, 15 billion dollars that we don't have because more people are leaving this city that have money, that have the tax revenue that would pay for all these ridiculous things. He's going to deliver on nothing he promised and smile all the way through it. And when he runs for mayor again, there's a good chance he'll win because, again, voters are stupid. They're all about the sizzle and never the steak. And this guy, he does a good social media post. He does great videos with former hosts of this radio station. Great, funny, hilarious. Get something done. You can't, because all the things you promised, unicorn and rainbow kind of stuff. Anyway, you got to hear this because this is one of my favorite clips. The whole Kristi Noem thing is just so odd. You know, she DHS secretary, she was loyal to Trump. He gave her that job. Trump's rhetoric and his actions basically closed the border. We've had 0 illegals released into this country now over the last 9 months. That is insane. All right. And we've had something like 453,000. Bill Malugin reported on this for Fox earlier this week. 453,000 illegals arrested and or deported in this country since Trump took office. 453,000. That's bigger than the population of St. Louis, Missouri. Think about that. Or Atlanta, Georgia. Right? Those are huge numbers, and they rarely get reported. And Trump fixed the immigration problem so quickly that it's now not an issue to voters because it's no longer an issue. Like, he almost did it too well, if that makes sense. But anyway, so Kristi Noem, DHS secretary, she's out. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't, right? Mark Wayne Mullen will do a great job as well. And there are always these rumors that she's never really denied that she has been having an affair with Corey Lewandowski, a Trump ally, for some time now. All right. They're rumors. I'm not saying that's true and it's fact and it's gospel, but it's pretty much an open secret. And you can kind of see why now, because, well, here's Bill Maher on his show on Friday night talking about Mr. Noem, all right, Kristi's husband, who apparently is trans, which is beyond weird, but this is cut number 6. Go.
They released audio of Brian Noem's dominatrix. Apparently he was very much the confidant of this. This is who we really talked to a lot, this dominatrix. And he had been telling her that he very much wanted to do the surgery and get the hormones and become a woman. He is now leading in the polls for the Democratic nomination for
So that's what makes that show good. You didn't know where he was going with that. You think, all right, here's Maher bashing the husband of a Republican former governor. Nope. He hates the woke stuff. And he's a voice of reason on that side of the party, along with John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, Candace Owens is crazy. There's no other way to put this. This person is insane. And anybody who listens to her, you probably have to have a couple screws loose as well. Here is your latest evidence to this allegation by me. Cut number 14, go.
Else to help you understand. You are quite literally mocking people because they comprehend something that you don't. Tucker Carlson is more powerful than you. Deep down, I think you know that. And I think you resent that, which is...
Yeah, that's Candace Owens saying that Tucker Carlson is more powerful than President Donald Trump. Powerful. How exactly? Tucker does a podcast. Okay. Used to work with Tucker. Okay. It's not more powerful. CNN poll came out this week. Again, I don't know why CNN does a poll like this, but I guess I'm talking about it, so maybe there was some sense around it. Tucker Carlson used to have a plus 57 point positive approval rating in terms of like favorability. They did another poll this week, and now it's at plus 7. It's 50 points from where he was, because obviously now he's a critic of the president, and Donald Trump's going to win that every time in terms of loyalty. And here you have Candace Owens saying that Trump resents Tucker because Tucker's more powerful than him. Pretty sure Trump's more powerful than Tucker Carlson, and that's not a knock on Tucker. It's not a knock on anybody. He's the most powerful person in the world. He's one of the most powerful human beings who's ever graced the planet. I'm not kissing butt here. Find me a more transformative person in the presidency during your lifetime. Ronald Reagan, you can make a decent argument for that, sure. Fall of the Soviet Union, yeah. But Trump, I'm sorry. I don't see anybody who is more powerful and more transformative than Trump has been during his now 5 and then coming up in 5.5 years now in office. Speaking of the aforementioned president, here he is talking about how Spain, yeah, we're not going to deal with you like, ever, as long as I'm president. Cut number 17, go.
Everybody was enthusiastic about it, Germany, everybody, and Spain didn't do it. And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases, and that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it, but we don't have to. But they were unfriendly. And so I told him we don't want to. Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, yes, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that in NATO would not agree to go up to 5%. I don't think they would have agreed to go up to anything. They wanted to keep it at 2%, and they don't pay the 2%. So we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
Wow. Well, somebody who, Concha is, a lot of people think because my name ends in a vowel and I'm from New Jersey, that automatically makes me Italian. Nope. Concha is Basque. That is the northern part of Spain near the French border, a little place called San Sebastian, which is one of the more beautiful beaches you could ever go to. So, yeah, I agree with them. Great people in Spain. Leadership, not so much. And when you think about Spanish exports, not much comes to mind. So Trump's like, all right, I can't use you, as my old football coach used to say. Anyway, didn't say it to me, of course, but it's just a thing in general. All right, let's go to Woke, and Clint Eastwood, who is just, this guy will live to be 175 years old. I'm completely and totally convinced. Here he is on Hollywood going woke, and it's exactly what you would expect from Dirty Harry. Cut number 18, go.
I think it's dull. It's, nobody's enjoying. I grew up in a neighborhood with lots of different types of people, a lot of different nationalities, and along the way, because I moved a lot, I was born in the Depression, and so I moved a lot, and I knew a lot of people, and I always enjoyed the differences. And I think if people enjoy the differences in everybody, then they are willing to, to have fun with it.
Go ahead. Make my day.
I guess we used to have fun with it. We'd insult each other and laugh and scratch with it, and it was not a bad thing. People didn't take themselves that seriously at that point in time.
I mean, 95 years old, just had to look it up, born May 31st, 1930. Yes, during the Depression, San Francisco, California, became a mayor of a town in California at one point, which had banned ice cream. I was in a Fox Nation documentary about Eastwood, and I had to do some research around it. And yeah, it had banned ice cream, and then he signed a law to bring it back and did a good job. Like, he was completely and totally committed. It wasn't just like a symbolic thing, but you would expect that from Eastwood. And if you want to see one of his better movies, I'm not talking about the older ones, obviously, they're all great, but Gran Torino, it came out about 15 years ago, is one of the best films I've ever seen. All right, and I'll just leave it at that. All right, you can look it up as far as where to get it and what it's about. But yeah, Gran Torino. That's probably a top 3 movie of mine when it comes to Clint Eastwood, who, by the way, and I know we got to go to break, he was at first chosen to play not just Superman, but James Bond. It would have been over Roger Moore, and it would have been over, because Moore obviously replaced Connery, and then Superman over Christopher Reeve. And he decided that he wasn't the right person for the role. I mean, they wanted him, and he said no. So that's a little tidbit that you could take to whatever Sunday brunch or barbecue hopefully you're going to this afternoon on this beautiful day in the New York, New Jersey area. And we wrap this puppy up on the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Sunday Morning Foundation show in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, I mean, this is the clip to end all clips that went viral this week. I got to talk about it on Sean Hannity's show on Fox, and we did have a lot of fun with it on here as well. Well, LBGTQ just isn't quite good enough. And apparently the powers that be have now decided to add a few more letters and even some numbers and symbols. It's almost like, you got to create a password for, your bank app, and it has to have symbols, numbers, like everything in it to the point where, of course, you're never going to remember it. Well, this is what LBGTQ has become, and then other things that are planned as well as far as acronyms. This is cut number 7. Go.
They provided $0 to deal with the ongoing genocide of MMIW, G2S, LGBTQIA+.
And for those of you fascists who don't know what that means, it's obviously missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning, intersex, and asexual. And we decided that the best way to honor these murdered and missing women was to lump them into the ever-growing category of gender identities and sexualities. We're also expanding that list to include the PWPPOTPs, or people who prefer pineapple on their pizza, as well as the WENTCWTPLs, or white empty nesters that clap in the plain land. We will also be expanding out to the LXBMTATTMT3 SABR31FAT WOWO ABAIC, which of course refers to the Latinx busty MILFs that ask to try more than 3 samples at Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors and then walk out without actually buying any ice cream. Well, so we're going to have the full alphabet soon. So, yeah, super sad about the murdered women, though, the Indigenous ones.
Yeah. I mean, that really is a thing, the MMIW. 2P. I try to remember it, and that's what the most impressive thing is about that particular soundbite. Here are the letters again. MMIWG2SLGBTQQIA+. And this woman just reels it off without even looking down at a piece of paper or a teleprompter or anything. Like, she knew it. She had it. She nailed it. So those are the other things that are coming. I like the pineapple on pizza one. That's outstanding. Meanwhile, we spoke before about how Candace Owens is crazy. That's now confirmed by several sources. But also, Mrs. Gavin Newsom, who we play every day on this show because the clips just keep coming in. They just keep on giving. Here is Jen Newsom, the possible future First Lady of the United States, talking about how she gives her sons dolls to play with because that's totally normal. Cut number 15, go.
I think that we as a society should have no problem giving boys dolls and things to care for. I mean, I think that there should, truthfully, I think it's just ridiculous that we only give our girls dolls.
Wow, 4 years of Gavin and Jen. Can't happen. Kamala, we're rooting for you, baby. Anyway, we are out of time. This has been the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Sunday Morning Foundation Show. We are back on WABC in New York and stations around the country tomorrow night, Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.